Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. It's Marissa Explains It All. Today I am showing you how to do a handful of Pottery Barn dupes. So if you're like me, you like decorating in neutrals, but not necessarily farmhouse, and you don't love the Pottery Barn price tag. So if you're semi-handy and love to do a good DIY, you can do a lot of these yourself and get the same result for less. So if that sounds interesting to you, stay tuned and I'll be right back. So I took a look at the Pottery Barn 2022 Spring Lookbook to get some inspiration, and what I found was a handful of things that I thought I could make myself for less. So I'm going to show you guys how to do a handful of vases. We've got a cable knit sweater pillow, a lamp, some contentment beads in a wood bowl, and last but not least, some decorative jute balls that are tied in a knot. So let's begin. So first up are these contentment beads, or mala beads as they're sometimes called. On the Pottery Barn website, these are $79 to $99. To make them yourself, you'll first need some sort of twine or cording or heavy string. I'm using a hemp cord from Hobby Lobby for $3.99. Next, you'll need some wood beads. I found these at Hobby Lobby as well. They were on sale, 2 for $7. This is a wood bead mixture, so there are different sizes, so I did buy 2 packs, but you can also get a pack from Amazon that have all the same size. Next, you'll need some sort of a stone, like quartz or agate or some sort of pendant that you like. I didn't find a solid stone that I liked, so I did pick up this agate jewelry pendant from the jewelry making section. This was $6 on sale at Hobby Lobby as well, and I liked it enough to use it. And you'll also need some scissors. So to get started, cut yourself a length of string, however long you want your beads to be. I cut mine about 35 to 40 inches long. Next, notice there are different sizes in this particular wood bead mix, so I went with the middle size. I felt like that was the best size for this project, and I had enough of the beads in the mix to do that. So simply go ahead and string on the beads, and a tip is to actually use a piece of painter's tape or any kind of tape really to help give yourself a guide piece at the beginning and help guide the bead through. Sometimes the wood is a little bit rough and this helps. Go ahead and string along. I used about 48 beads for my size here, but you can use as many as you like until it's all filled up. When you're done, go ahead and tie a knot in the string, and then we'll move on to thread on the pendant or your bead. I'm using a jewelry pendant, so I'm just kind of threading it through both, and it kind of hangs off to the side like that. So let's make a tassel for the end, and you can use the same material or different. I'm going to use the same material and wrap my cording around about 30 times around my 4 fingers, and this will give me a nice kind of decently full tassel, but if you want something fuller you can do more. After you cut it, go ahead and gently take it off of your fingers and you'll end up with a loop. And so go ahead and take the ends of your bead necklace and tie a knot into the loop. Once you've tied your knot, go ahead and cut the other end of the loop, and that will form the strings for your tassel. Now, I used a hemp cord which was very stiff, and so my tassel looks really crazy right now, but we're gonna fix it. So first, go ahead and give your tassel a nice little haircut, and go ahead and cut off some of the extra strings and make them roughly the same size. And then take a piece of string about 4 inches long, maybe 5 if you have a larger tassel, and tie the string, kind of wrap it around a few times around the head of your tassel, about maybe a ½ inch down, a ¼ inch down, however looks right to you, just to kind of secure the top of it. Tie it in a knot and tuck the knot under. And that's what it should look like. And now let's work on those crazy strings. I'm going to go ahead and flat iron mine because I wanted them to all lay flat. You may not have this problem if you end up choosing another string that's a little bit softer and not so stiff. But if you do, you can always use a flat iron. And then one more little final trim just to kind of fine tune, and there you have it. Our beads are complete and they look great. I styled this in a wood bowl that I found at the thrift store for $1.99 and a kitchen towel from Walmart that I already had on hand. And so of course I am kind of fussing and always fidgeting with this product to make it look good and figure out how the best way to lay it out would be, but the final cost for this was $17, and so quite a cost savings, and it turned out really pretty. Very happy with it. Next up are these brushed vases. So on the Pottery Barn website, these are $149 to $199. So to make this yourself, you'll need any kind of vase. I found this urn vase that I liked at the thrift store for $1.99. I thought this was a great shape, even though it doesn't quite look like the inspiration picture. A lot of the other vases in the inspiration lookbook were this kind of urn shape or bell jar shape, so I chose this one, and it already had handles, which I loved. I also picked up this edible arrangements mug from the thrift store as well, $1.99, to use in addition, and so I'm going to go ahead and start with spray painting that one because it's a dark color. So if you have something that's a dark color, I would recommend using a white spray paint on it. Otherwise, you can just skip ahead and use this acrylic craft paint. These were $1.11 at Hobby Lobby each, and I'm using vintage white and teddy bear tan, so I'm using both colors. I also need some craft brushes. I got these from Hobby Lobby. They're about $1 a piece for both brushes, and they have the perfect kind of rough texture. And to style it, I'm using this bunny tail greenery that I found in the floral section of Hobby Lobby. I found this for $10.99, and I thought it was the perfect type of neutral that fit the aesthetic really well, so I picked some of this grass up to put in all of my vases. So to start, go ahead and place your vase on something that you can rotate and get dirty, like this paper. I'm starting with my vintage white and a brush, and I'm just put on a paper plate here, dipping in, and simply give it a good coat. So the good thing about these brushes is that texture is your friend. So I'm using cheaper craft brushes rather than a really nice paintbrush because I really want to get those brush strokes in there, and I don't want to smooth them out too much. And so it's really nice to have that. And so I went ahead and also painted the inside, and now I'm dipping into teddy bear tan just to give it some color and start some of that kind of warmth into the tones. Now I needed a second coat after this, so really this is just a practice round. So this is what it kind of looked like when it was all, you know, kind of done for the first round, but I really realized I needed a second coat. So I went back in with my vintage white and then also the teddy bear tan, and this was what it looked like when it was all wet. And so I was happy with that, set it aside to dry, and then spray painted my red mug. So after the red mug had a nice white base to it, I was able to do the same process of painting it, and this is what it looks like when it was all complete. And so these were done for $4 for each vase, and then $15 total cost with the cost of the bunny tail grass. Really cute. Next up are these speckled vases from Pottery Barn. These are $40 to $89 on the website. So first, to make these, find yourself a vase that you like. I picked up one from Dollar Tree for $1.25. You'll also need some gloss spray paint. I got this from Lowe's for $5.48. It's important to get a gloss to make that shine. And you'll also need a little bit of a tan craft paint. I'm using this acrylic paint by Folk Art in the shade Teddy Bear Tan from Hobby Lobby for $1.11. You'll also need a brush. A nice thick brush will work great for this project. First, go ahead and spray paint your vase with the gloss spray paint, and only one coat should be needed for this if you do it thick enough. And this is what it looked like when it's done. Really pretty, and I love the shine on this. And I'm also grabbing my Teddy Bear Tan acrylic paint. I'm going to start by protecting my work surface because this gets quite messy with all the speckling, so I just put down an old beach towel and began dipping in and flecking the paint. So I realized that it was a little bit too thick. If this happens to you, go ahead and just take a capful of water and water down your paint a little bit, and that will help it get a nicer runny consistency to kind of splatter on. So if you're finding that you have some paint splatters that you're not fond of, like some of these are just more like splatters and really not flecks, you can wipe it off with a tissue if you get it quickly. You can kind of just restart. And I actually did just blot some of these and start over. And I left some of the brown paint in the background, so you can see in the end it doesn't wipe away completely clean, which I kind of liked the look of. But you can continue wiping until it's clean. And then once it's done, you can go ahead and run your brush down the bottom. If you notice in the inspiration picture has the bottom of these all brown. So this is what it looks like, and you can kind of see what I mean. There are some areas that are still kind of tan in the background, and it adds to that rustic look. If you don't like that, then just simply wipe your flecks away instead of blotting, and you'll get more of a clean white look, and won't have those kind of little tan spots in the background. And this is what it looks like all styled. So the final cost for this vase was $7, not including the greenery. So the vase itself was $7, and I really like it. This is now sitting on my desk, and I really love how it turned out. Next up is probably the easiest craft. This Potpourri Bowl is $39.50 on the Pottery Barn website. All you need is a ceramic bowl, and I picked this up at the Dollar Tree for $1.25. You'll need some shortcuts paint in the shade Gold Leaf by Krylon, and that was $4 from Hobby Lobby. You'll need some potpourri. I got this at Walmart for $5. Go ahead and find a scent that you enjoy, and let's get started. So go ahead and give your bowl a good spray, and I love how this spray paint turns out. It's one of my favorites. This is what it looks like all painted, and look how pretty that is. I love the shine, and the shade of this gold is so pretty. So now it comes to simply opening your potpourri and picking out some pieces that you like. So I chose more of the neutral look for this, but I did add some pops of green from my mixture, and this is what it looks like all done. And the final cost for this was about $10 all said and done, and I had some potpourri left over. It looks really pretty and a great accent for any side table. Next up are these leather detail vases. On the Pottery Barn website, these are $59 to $149. So to do these yourself, go ahead and find a vase that you like. I found this one that was thrifted for $1.99. This is a very popular shape. A lot of people like to give flowers in this, and so you'll usually find these pretty easily. You'll need some spray paint. This is another just matte white that I found at Lowe's for $5.48. You'll also need a leather strip, and so I found some craft leather on sale for $2.79 in the jewelry making section of Hobby Lobby. Begin by spray painting your vase, and don't worry about getting the finish perfect. As you can see in the inspiration picture, they were quite imperfect, so any drips or any material that gets in your vase is great. I heated up my hot glue gun and began to look at my leather. So I'm going to cut myself a couple strips, and this is where you can start playing around with how many strips you would like, if you want one or if you want one on each side, and how long you want them to be, where you want them to attach. I chose to do 2 strips that were about 3/4 of an inch wide and then a few inches long, and I'm just kind of playing around with where they should fall on the vase. So I'm going to attach it at the top just with a little dab of hot glue, and then want to go ahead and look at how far down they should come. And you definitely don't want to pull the strap flat because it will ruin the look. You want it to have a nice curve to it. So allow some slack in your leather piece so that it has that nice curve. I'm actually going to turn the vase so I can see it from the front and make sure there's the right amount of slack in the left strap as there was in the right, so it looks symmetrical. And that is everything. The final cost for these vases were $10. Not too bad, and you can see some of the imperfections up close here, which is, you know, kind of helps because that's what the inspiration picture looked like as well. Next up are these cable knit pillows. So I saw these on the Pottery Barn website for $69.50. To do this yourself, you will need a cable knit sweater. I found this at the thrift store for $5. Look for something that's really chunky and an earth tone seems to be the kind of the trend. And so I found this was perfect. Usually I look in the men's section to try to get an extra large. You'll also need some batting or fiber fill. I found this 12-ounce bag for $2.99 at Hobby Lobby. You'll also need some fabric fuse tape. This is a nice permanent adhesive for fabric if you don't sew. This is $3.99 from Hobby Lobby, or you can use a sewing machine. So first begin by laying out your sweater and getting an idea of how much you need to cut off and how much the polyfill is going to fill. So cut off the ribbing at the bottom, lay your fabric on top, leave a couple inches on either side, and then cut your sweater. Go ahead and turn it inside out, and you're going to use this tape to mimic sewing a seam. And so it's very simple to use. You just put the tape on there, peel the backing away, and then use it. It's very sticky, so try to do the best you can to kind of match the cables up, make it nice and even, and there you have one seam done. So turn it around on the other side and use the tape on the left and right thirds of your top seam, and make sure you leave a nice gap in the middle for filling with your stuffing. And then once you're done securing the left and right portions of your seam, then I check for holes. I check the corners just to make sure I've not got any holes. This one I didn't secure well enough with the tape, so make sure you fix any holes before you turn it inside out. So flip it inside out, stuff it with your batting, and make it as full as you would like. And once you're done, it's time to seam up the hole that we left for stuffing. And so I just take a piece of hem tape here and fuse it to the one side of the fabric, peel off the layer. I kind of tuck it down and tuck the other side of the fabric down as well, so that you want the insides together and you're not exposing any raw edges. So it's just like if you were sewing, you would want those right sides together. So kind of tuck each side down and pinch together. Once you're done, that's it. Give it one kind of final fluff to get it all laying nice how you want it, and here's the final result. So this pillow was $12 and turned out really well. Next up is a textured lamp. So these are $249 to $349 on the Pottery Barn website. To start out, I'm using a thrifted lamp, and I chose this one from my local thrift store. It's $13 because I liked the vertical lines. So it looked like the vertical lines in the inspiration picture. I thought that was great. You'll also need some acrylic craft paint. I'm using my vintage white and teddy bear tan, same colors as I've been using for the other crafts in this video. So they all kind of match and are cohesive. And you'll need your craft brushes, of course. The acrylic paint was $1.11, the craft brushes are about $1 a piece, and you'll also need some sand. So this is of course free at the beach or if you live near an area that has sand, but if you didn't, this is $5 from Walmart. Next, you'll need a lampshade if you want to swap it out. So I wanted something a little more modern, and I picked up this $20 lampshade from Walmart, but I did not realize that the size was too big. It did not fit and did not sit on there correctly. I even tried to kind of flip it upside down just to see if that would sit a little bit lower, and it just did not look right. So I was stuck not being able to use this, so pay attention to the sizing. I'm going to fix it with spray paint in a bit. So go ahead and squeeze out your vintage white onto a paper plate, and then squeeze out some teddy bear tan. The inspiration picture actually had these lamps looking fairly tan and pretty dark actually. They weren't as light as some of the other colors. They were fairly beige. I'm using sand here to give myself some texture. Now they do sell textured spray paint, so if you can find that in a color that you like, certainly use that and you can skip the sand. But I couldn't find a color that I really liked, and so I wanted something that I could just do myself, so I'm using sand. Go ahead and brush your lamp, and then I'm adding more teddy bear tan because I realized that I wanted to add some brush strokes and a little bit more texture to this lamp. So go ahead and do as little or as much, applying of color or blending as you like. The more you blend in, the more it's going to look smooth, and the less you blend, of course, it'll look a little bit more rustic and chunky. And this is what I ended up with after my coats were done. And I think it looks pretty good. It looks pretty rustic. I spray painted the lampshade with white spray paint. So I used a matte white, and I was able to get it a little bit whiter and a little bit more modern. It took out some of the shine that it had in it before. And so this is what it looks like all complete. And so I was able to do this for $23.50. And it looks similar. It doesn't look exactly like the inspiration picture, but it looks similar enough and matches some of my decor and some of my other crafts. Lastly, we're looking at some decorative jute balls. Now you get 3 for $199 on the Pottery Barn website, but I knew I could beat that price. So I went to Hobby Lobby and I found this for $7. And this is just natural cording. It looks like rope, and I chose it in a color that I liked a little bit more than that dark brown. I chose the white. You'll also need some materials from around the house to make a jig for yourself. So I'm using some cardboard, some pens, hair tie or rubber band, and some ping pong balls. You can also use golf balls or ball bearings, or instead of pens, you can use pencils for chopsticks. I've seen both. If you just look for a homemade jig on YouTube, you'll find some. And essentially I'm just tracing myself 4 points on the outside of my ping pong ball, poking those through with my pens, and then dropping the golf ball, or the ping pong ball rather, in the middle, and then using the elastic to secure those in place. And this helps me secure like a 4-post sort of tool that I can use. Now, I'm taking my cord and I'm wrapping it around, and I am not an expert here, but this knot that we're making is called a monkey's fist. So if you look on YouTube, there are plenty of tutorials for a monkey's fist knot tying, and a lot of people do it with paracord. So this was my first try at making a monkey's fist knot, and it turned out okay. It took me about 3 tries to get it right, and I was, surprised at how kind of difficult it was. So if you're not overly crafty or you don't have an extra 30 to 45 minutes to spend, this may not be for you, but this is what it turned out when all the cords were tightened. I did 7 passes, and so if you're looking at how many strings that you'll need, that's 7 passes. And I just hot glued down the ends, and this is what it looks like. I thought it turned out pretty cute, and I was able to do this for $7. And you can make several more of these. The whole, I only used like a tiny bit of rope, so you can make a lot. These are also kid approved. Here's my son playing with these. It's kind of almost like a Montessori activity with the natural elements and the wood beads and the wood bowl, so he loved it. So that is everything. As you can see, it came together really nicely, very simple, and absolutely more cost effective than buying retail. So hopefully you had as much fun watching as I did making these, and feel free to ask any questions below in the comments. I'd love to help answer, and also feel free to subscribe to the channel. I'd love to have you. I'll see you next time for the next DIY. Bye guys.